Welcome to Generator Live. This is bound to be full of bugs as I go through the new show format for 2026. But right now, I just want to welcome everybody here on YouTube to the new show format. Now, if you've been following Generator for the past couple of years, I've been doing this 3 or 4 years. I know I'm not as consistent with the episodes as I'd like to be, but here I am making the commitment to myself and to you to do this every single Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern. Now, truth be told, I always have a guest on with me, right? We're always talking about issues for working creatives. We're always talking about the things that get us going, the things that we struggle with, the mental health issues, everything that goes along with trying to be creative and make it in a world where everybody's telling us to do something different. So, I am Matt Stagliano. I own Stone Tree Creative. It's a portrait studio here in Maine. I also run Generator. I'm a content creator. I'm a portrait photographer. And for those of you that know me, know that it's what you see is what you get. And that's exactly what you're going to get here tonight. So what I wanted to do is go into a new show format for 2026. Typically, when I bring in a guest on, we sit and we chat, and it's usually a little bit about business, and then it really morphs into the intangibles in creativity and some of the issues that we face and what we're trying to get past. Right now, as I look at the back catalog of Generator episodes, I've had amazing guests on, right? Some of the best photographers and creatives in the business. And I'm extraordinarily lucky to be able to do that. But what I found as I've been analyzing over the past, 6 or 8 months, all of the older episodes, I realized that my format is up and down. And while that's great for long form podcasts, they typically run about an hour and a half. While that's all well and good, I wanted to provide more structure for people watching. And so I'm going to get into everything about Generator later. But after this intro, what you're going to be watching is me going through all the segments of the show that I'll then be using with all of my guests going forward. So now, when I bring one of my guests on, we'll talk a little bit, we'll get up to date on what's happening, but then I'm going to bring them into the very first segment, which I'm calling maintenance. Now, with the maintenance segment, this is really meant to be kind of like a rapid fire Q&A. Short sentences, not a whole lot of elaboration, because we can always get into that a little bit later down the road. So I wrote up a couple of questions for myself this week, and then some of the things that you'll hear me asking myself, I'll also be asking my guests going forward. So first one, what got fixed this week? And quite honestly, it was my attitude. I also fixed all of my pricing for 2026, and we can get into that. Question 2, what's still broken? Well, my time management. Time management is one of those things that for me, I've always struggled with. The other thing that's broken, or what I think is broken, is my relationship with Claude, the AI platform. Because it's just not, I think it's getting dumber. I don't know if you're experiencing anything like this, but I think AI is getting dumber. I can expand on that. What am I avoiding right now? I think really what I'm avoiding are some of the bigger projects that I have and some of the things that cater to my weird introverted nature. I don't want to go to public networking events right now. It's winter in Maine. The roads suck. It gets dark at like noon. And I'm really a homebody during the winter. So trying to get out to network meetings just isn't really going to happen. And then the other thing that I've been avoiding is the book that I wrote and just finishing the editing on that. I'm about 75% of the way through it, and I'm just dragging my feet. And I know it has a lot to do with fear of releasing it. So we can get into that. What routine am I protecting no matter what? My morning coffee ritual, where I get up, go downstairs, make some coffee or tea or crack open a Celsius. I don't know. It's got to be some sort of hydrating liquid. And then I do my New York Times puzzles, and that's connection and Wordle and spelling bee. And I go through all of those in the morning, and it takes me about 5 or 10 minutes, but it's a ton of fun. It allows me to do something where I feel productive and I feel like I'm winning something in the morning. So if you play any of those games and you can relate, then that's my morning ritual right now. It's not necessarily meditation or exercise. It's brain puzzles. What did I finally automate this week that I should have done years ago? All right, this is a big one. So today, I built an entire lead magnet for Generator. It's an updated podcast prep guide for my guests. I've always sent them something, but I just really built it out this morning. And then I automated that with ManyChat for Instagram. Thought I had everything good, broke instantly because I also sent it to Facebook and I didn't set up anything on the Facebook side. So I took it all down and I'll try again tomorrow. What's overdue for an overhaul? All of my client communications and pricing sheets going into 2026. I think that is really something that I haven't been keeping up with enough. And as things change for me in what I'm doing in the studio, all of that really does need to be communicated to my clients. And I'll go through what that looks like. And then what's running better than expected? My energy, my motivation. I kind of found this new passion with live streaming and video creation and just getting back to doing the thing instead of sitting here at my desk and scrolling Google and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and just watching the days go by when I can be a lot more structured. So that's it. Maintenance, rapid fire systems check. That's exactly what has been happening this week and gives you a preview as to how I'll be doing that with some of my guests. Real quick answers, nothing formal, because now we get to go into a segment that I'm calling the blueprint. All right, so in the blueprint, this is about what I'm doing in the moment, what I'm planning, how we're building, how everything, there's a fly in here, how everything happens organically. And we often lay out plans and we do our best to stick to them, but often they go awry, especially when we don't have a plan written out. So one thing that I always do, and I hid them so that they wouldn't be all over my desk here, is little legal pads. I have big ones, I have little ones, I've got journals, I've got notebooks. Anywhere that I can find paper, there's definitely something written on it, some to-do task or some list. And I do that because I like to be able to cross things off. And it just doesn't have the same satisfaction when I check a box in Notion as it does grabbing a big thick marker and scratching that off the to-do list. It just feels more complete for me. So the blueprint for me has been looking at Generator and what I'm doing here and making it better for everyone across the board. I find that the way that I was doing things with the interviews and them taking an hour and a half is that I wasn't properly prepping any of my guests. I would send them a questionnaire and I'd get their bio and I'd get their headshot and I'd get some information about some of the topics that they want to talk about. But that's about where I left it. The reason being, I then take all of that information and I do a crazy amount of research and I develop my entire show structure based on that research. I come up with my questions. I come up with my North Star that I want to keep coming back to. I think about how I'm going to ask some of these questions. I listen to other shows and what they're talking about, what the guest is talking about on other shows. And if they haven't done anything like that, digging into why and what I can do to help them be seen by more people. So it started as something that came out of the Artist Forge years back when I was on Clubhouse. And the pre-recorded interview side of it always felt really, really good to me. It gave me the chance to have these conversations. If something goes off the rails, then I can always edit it in post. And I found that as time went on, I was doing more and more editing. Very rarely did I edit anything that my guests said, unless they, stumbled over a word and it disrupted the sound of the podcast. But what I found was I was editing more and more of what I was saying. And while some of it was necessary because, I tend to talk, I tend to ramble, I was editing out things that took away from me being me. And I didn't want to do that anymore. And I sat and I thought, I said, well, I can just stick to the question. I can write out the question and just stick to it and not ask anything else. That takes a lot more prep work, quite frankly, than what I was willing to put in. And as I think about where podcasting is going, where live streaming is going, I realize that there's a real opportunity here for those of us that create content. If you can get over yourself and your own seeing yourself on camera and hearing yourself talk, realizing that everything is going to be imperfect, if you can get past that, there's an opportunity for you to build your own television network and create the content that you're not seeing in the world. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. Now, if you go to YouTube, there's a billion other creativity folks out there. Tracy Matthews, who I had on a few weeks ago, is brilliant with this stuff. But what I found is that it didn't sound like I wanted it to sound. So rather than sitting around waiting for somebody else to create the thing, I figured I would take my interviews and just make a live show out of it. I want to get to the point eventually. Now, this is like 2027 goals, not even 2026, but 2027 goals. I want to be doing a live show every single day. That's where this is all headed. Whether it's half an hour, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 5 hours long, doesn't matter. I want to be doing a live show every single day. So this is what we're building towards. And you're going to come on this whole journey with me as I go from the pre-recorded side over to doing this, live streams. Because tomorrow, once this is done, what I'll do is I'm going to make this live, unlisted on YouTube. So those of you that are watching it here are going to see everything that I do, but I'm going to unlist it. I'm going to chop off some of that intro stuff where it was just the bumper as we were waiting for people to join. And then I'm going to re-upload it with all the show notes and everything that we talked about. And I'm going to do that without making any edits in the middle of it. Granted, if something goes wrong, we're getting a snowstorm here in Maine tonight. So if something does go wrong, then obviously I'll fix that. But for the most part, I want this to be what you see is what you get. And I'm going to try to do it for an hour. So that is why I'm now doing more generator lives. And for those of you that listen to the podcast from an audio standpoint, you've noticed that the past couple of weeks, I've been experimenting with different things. Some philosophical stuff, some very vulnerable, open kimono type of stuff. But all of it was prep and experimentation and trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what I liked, what I don't like. And so I wanted to finally find a format that felt really good for me. And I want to make it look different. I want to make it feel different. I want to make it sound different. So I set up the schedule so that every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., I will be right here. You can count on it like clockwork. In the event that I can't be here Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'm still going to release something at Wednesday at 7 p.m. so that there will be consistency week after week after week. I also wanted to make sure that I was doing a live on Friday morning. Much more casual, much less formal and formatted. I really just want that to be us hanging out. We can do some live editing. We can, talk about whatever you want. It's really an ask me anything session and a chance for me to be working here at my desk and then also helping people as they watch what I do. So with all of this move, with all the prep into the new version of Generator, what are some of the things that have to change in that as part of my workflow? And perhaps I'll do a full video at some point on my entire workflow end to end so you can see it. I've already built it out. I've got the handbook of how I do everything, and it's pretty thick. It's pretty massive about what I do to produce this podcast on a weekly basis. But I love it. So maybe next week or the week after, I'll walk all through that and develop some videos about how I do this. But what I found was that my production workflow, while I had a good checklist of things to go down, it wasn't as efficient as I'd like. And one of those big things was the editing part. Because in the guest prep, I always talk to my guests beforehand. We always have a good amount of back and forth via email or text or whatnot. So no one's ever walking into my show blind. But I wanted to improve that as well, especially as we move towards this new format. That guest prep guide that I built this morning and that anybody can download for free, all you have to do is go to the Generator Podcast Instagram channel and then just send me a DM with the word guide, and you'll be able to download this exact podcast prep guide that I'll be sending to my own guests. And in that, it will give the guests way more prep materials. What are some of the questions that I might ask you? What's your story? What are the topics that you really like to talk about? Because the more that you appear on podcasts, you find that you're talking about the same thing. Typically, if you're pushing something like a business or a book or a video or your own art of whatever ilk that is, if you have something to say and it's a common topic on a lot of podcasts, you need to do your prep work and make sure that you're hitting all your talking points. And that's what this whole guest prep guide was for. So that was one part of the efficiency. The other part was the editing, is in that the editing was taking me forever. For every 1 hour of recorded podcast, it would generally take me somewhere around 4 or 5 hours to produce at the post-production stage. And a lot of people are like, why the hell would it take you 5 hours to do that? Like I said, I was making a lot of cuts, trying to make the look and feel for YouTube a lot more dynamic, cutting between angles, cutting out the ums and the ahs and the stumbles and all of that stuff. Then after that's all edited, then comes the production of the intro, where I have to record a whole nother video to introduce my guest. And then there's the production of the intro sequence, which is pretty much a template at this point, but I do have to add to it every single week. And then there's the conversion to audio, which goes up to Captivate for all of those of you that are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio or whatever. That is the audio production side. That is a whole nother production workflow. For all of the thumbnail art and all of the artwork that I have to produce on a weekly basis. That takes time. That takes Canva time. So I go in there and I've got my templates and then I produce all of that. So once that's done, then it's transcribing the episode and producing the show notes and adding in all the links and making sure that everything is good and ready to go. That takes a lot of time. And usually people have a team of helpers doing it. I don't have that. So it's just me. It's a team of one, an army of one. And I wanted to be able to streamline that because I'm spending way too much time producing a podcast that, in my estimation, can be a lot better and a lot faster, and I can produce a lot more content if I don't spend all my time doing that. So that's what has to change. What stays the same is the conversation, the authenticity, the focus on real work, the making sure that you see exactly what I'm doing and how I'm hiding nothing. I see a lot of folks that, say, podcasting is easy. It is, but you have to know what you're getting into. You have to have some idea of what it is that you want to talk about and what your audience wants to hear. I know for me, the conversations that I was having with some of my creative friends, I couldn't hear anywhere else. So I figured I'd bring it to the market. So all of what you're getting from me and my guests is going to be that same open, honest, creative feedback, as well as focusing on ways that we can not only work better in our businesses, but also improve and not be ashamed of the fact that there's going to be a little bit of failure here and there. If you're not failing and then you're not failing forward, then you're just too comfortable. And that's fine. You want to stay comfortable. Just understand that if you have ideas about what you want to do in the future and you're frustrated that you're not getting there, usually it's because you're not doing the thing. You're trying to think your way into that success rather than just doing and failing and trying and experimenting and trying again until you get it right. I got to tell you, like, doing what I'm doing here now scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me because I'm doing it live. I'm here with you. I have no idea if this is going to go well or not, but I'm learning every single minute that I'm here. Okay. And then what scares me about all of this is not a whole lot, but I know that when I feel comfortable, shit goes off the rails. So whether it's going to be some sort of technical failure or, it's just not going to sound right. Or maybe I just have one of those days where my mouth doesn't work and I'm just stumbling through everything. I am repetitive. I'm disconnected. My ADHD goes nuts. Those are the things that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of people seeing this and being like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or look at this fool up there. I would rather be on stage and in front of you and making a fool of myself than in the audience going, I can do that better. Because I used to be that guy and I'd say I can do that better and then not do anything about it. So here I am doing better than the old version of me that would just stand there and judge and criticize people. So if you see this fly in here, it's because I have this big key light on and he's killing me. He's just flying through. So those of you on YouTube that are seeing this, just understand there's one fly in here and he's decided to mess with me the entire time. All right. So that's the blueprint. This is why I'm doing this with Generator. It's why I'm trying to produce something that's different than what you've seen and heard in the past, because I feel like this is going to bring us a lot closer together. This is going to give us a chance to have these real conversations, not only with my guests, but with you. I want to involve you in this entire process. So if you're here and you're watching me on YouTube, which is fantastic, thank you very much. Go ahead and drop something in the comments. Let me know how things are going. And I'll do my best, I promise, to bring that comment up on screen if it's not filthy and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. All right, that was the blueprint. Let's move into the next segment, which I'm calling the grind. So the grind is going to be a segment that really is about what it's like to be a solo operator in a creative field. I'm not talking about the creatives that have large teams that are able to segment the work out. I'm talking about those of us that it's just us. There is no additional help. So couple that with any sort of outside distraction. That can be family, kids, ADHD, right? Your dog just ran through the house and knocked all the vases off the table. There's so many things that can happen outside of our business that causes us to stop in our tracks and not keep the momentum that we're supposed to have. So I wanted to talk tonight about my experience grinding through what I'm calling the ADHD tax of being a solopreneur and trying to run everything myself. Because I've been really, really feeling this over the past, I don't know, probably 3 months, where, and I've talked about this before, this shouldn't really be anything new, but last week I was talking about not having enough time, feeling like I'm running out of time. And I know I'm not, but I feel like I'm running out of time. That's grinding on me because there's a lot of things that I've yet to implement in my business that I know will help, but for one reason or another over the past couple of years, I've never implemented, or I saw it and I said, that's a good idea. I'm just not there yet. It was all a guise of fear of just not putting in the work. So a couple of things that I'm really working on right now to beat this kind of ADHD challenge that I'm having is stopping the overthinking of everything, specifically when it comes to communications with my clients, with my students, with people in the audience that are just watching me like, who is this fool on YouTube? Email list creation, digital goods creation, social media scheduling, all of those are huge items that focus on marketing and getting my name out there. Those are things that I always look at and it just gives me that same feeling of like, don't want to do it. I know I have to do it. I don't want to do it. And so this week, let me back up. Back in October, I was at Creator Camp, the eCam Creator Camp. And you've heard me talk about this and what an incredibly transformative experience it was. One of the people that I met there was Liz Wilcox. Now, Liz Wilcox, you may know her. She was on Survivor. She almost made it to the end, but her thing now is email communication. She's got a massive email list and she runs her entire business through her email, through her membership to teach people how to use email more effectively, her templates, her digital goods, and she does remarkably well for herself. She supports a couple of families with what she makes with her email membership. And after going back and forth for a couple of months, I saw the value in it because I realized I met Liz. We had a great conversation. I really admire what she's doing. I really respect what she's doing. And when I saw her doing that, I said, I want that. I know I can do that. I've got to communicate with my clients more, with my audience more, with my followers more via email. I know that needs to happen because I've been preaching it to everybody that I know for, I don't know, the better part of 10 years. Build your email list, build your email list. And mine's been stalled at, 500 people thereabouts for better part of a couple of years. So I decided that I was going to start finally taking it seriously. And quite honestly, I need help doing it. So I joined Liz's email membership and it has been wonderful. Now, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm the type of person that likes to learn a lot before I start to do the thing. That's been part of the problem, is that I can learn and learn and learn. And that part of me never gets satiated where I feel like I know enough to do the thing. This is why Liz makes it so easy. She comes up with a template. She gives you the template every week. You take that template, you customize it, you send it out to your group, you're done. As you get better with it, now you're creating nurture sequences and you're creating longer sequences and marketing segments so that you can send the right people the right message at the right time. And I started to see that the only roadblock to any of it was me and my wanting to write the perfect email. I don't give a shit about perfect emails anymore. What I'm able to do now is just stay in front of my audience. I'm not spamming. I'm not becoming an email machine where you're getting 2 or 3 emails a day like I was getting during Black Friday from all these companies that are just chasing the cash, trying to sell, sell, sell. And there's nothing wrong with that, just not what I want to do. So I've joined forces with Liz, I belong to her program. I'm not going to say I joined forces with Liz. So even in the past couple of weeks, I've seen my consistency increase. I've seen the quality of the emails increase, and I've seen the feedback from people get better as well, that there's more engagement. Now, it's incrementally better because it's only been a few weeks since I've really started doing this more consistently. But I can see, wow, it works. All right. So what are the goals that I'm setting there? It is grow that email list consistently by, 10, 15% every quarter, making sure that I keep growing, hence the lead magnets and ManyChat and harvesting emails that way and doing more of this and getting more followers this way. It's about helping people, and I know I've got a ton that can help folks. So rather than it just being buy my thing, which tends to be portrait packages at my studio, I want to start solving more and more problems for people. So if I can give you part of my experience from the last, decade and a half, that's 15 years for you doing math, of being a portrait photographer, being a solopreneur, let me help you. And that makes me feel way better about doing all of this than just sitting here being like, look at my vanity numbers. I don't give a shit about any of that. So with all of that, I've stumbled and bumbled and fumbled my way forward for the past couple of years. And a lot of what I do is kind of held together by duct tape. I think one of the questions that I ask a lot of people, and I tell to a lot of people, is if you can't walk away from your business without it falling apart, you're not really in a business. You're in a hobby that gives you income. And I didn't want to admit that to myself for a long time, but that's really what I've been doing. Because if I walked away from my business tomorrow, it might exist because of my website and some of the automations I have there for a month or two, but there's no photographer on the other end to do it. There's no creator on the other end to give you more goods. It just kind of falls flat and has, an end of life cycle in there. So I'm trying to create a way for Stone Tree and Generator to be autonomously running to the point where I'm able to step back for, let's say, a month. I want to take a month off. I want things to appear as if I never left. A lot of that comes down to batch creation of content, preparation of emails, scheduling social posts, all of the things that we can do to make our businesses kind of run on autopilot. But there's a lot that goes into that. Every single one of those things can be someone else's job. So if I'm being honest with myself, trying to do all of that at once has caused a situation where it's all loosely held together, but nothing is on stable footing. And this is the problem that I'm solving. This is the motivation that I've had over the past couple of weeks. Giving myself until January 1st to get a lot of this in place. And I'm doing it. I'm doing really, really well at just getting up in the morning, and instead of doing my coffee and my puzzles and then just kind of like hanging out during the day, if I don't have a client, I'm sitting here and I'm creating and I'm thinking through my processes and I'm taking one thing at a time and knocking it off the list. It feels incredible to be creating some of these things that I know I've needed, that are going to help me, and that can also help other people. So that's why I'm doing all of this. Now, I don't have any magic solutions for anybody. What I do have is acknowledgement of my own challenges, what happens in my world for me when I'm not doing the work, when I'm letting things slide, when I'm not working on the business. I'm just working in the business, and I'm invoicing and I'm sending emails, and I just, you have that feeling like, oh, this just sucks. This is not why I'm doing the thing and that I want to do. So now that I've started taking the action, it feels good. I've got a little bit of momentum and I don't want to lose it. So that's been the grind. It's been really hard from the standpoint of being diagnosed with ADHD, knowing that common solutions that everybody says you can do just don't work for my brain. And I've come to accept that rather than feeling like I'm deficient or less than. And it's been a wonderful change. The other thing that's, really helped with all of this has been, was it my friend Brian, maybe Doc? I think there's a lot of people have said this because it's becoming a much more common thing, is that you're the representation of the 5 or 6 people that you hang out the most with. And if you know me on a personal level, my town can really get to me. And it really drags me down. There's a lot of sour people around here. It's tough living out here in the sticks, and it's a hardworking culture. People are very nice, but they tend to have that Northeastern, everything's kind of shitty most of the time, but you survive it anyway. And that's what it was like in Boston. It's what happened in Maine when I moved up here, and it's even harder living up here. So when I came home from creator camp and I realized that my world, which had really shrunk down to nothing but portrait photographers, is now expanded exponentially with all types of creators. It's changed my mindset on a lot of things because I get inspired. I get motivated. I see what people are doing, and I never say, I'm going to do it exactly like them. I never look at it and say, wow, that's a great idea. Let me copy that. What I do is I say, what are the things that they're doing that works? And am I doing that? No. All right. So how do I take that end feeling, that emotion, that result, and make it my own? How do I do it? How do I bring my voice to it? For example, this show here, 100% inspired by people like Jeff C., Brandon Washington, Doc Rock, Paul Duncan. I see all of these people that are in this kind of eCam world that are streaming and producing, but they're also cinematographers and musicians and moderators and marketing people. Everybody is creating. And I was so insular in my little world with my friends and folks around here, my colleagues, that are just all kind of defeated and worn down by, life in the world. The moment that I started shifting and focusing on people that inspire me, that are way better at this than I am, that raises the bar for me. That's where I really excel. That's where I really perform. Because, I want to get there too. And I think it's a healthy thing. I'm not stealing from anybody. I'm not copying exactly their format. I'm not doing exactly the same things that they're doing. But a live show is a live show. A sitcom is a sitcom, right? It's how we get used to things. And the formats that I've seen people doing as they produce more live shows has been segmented, right? Podcasts tend to be longer form conversations. The conversation goes wherever it wants. Television shows, from my production with Sunday River TV, Outside Television, to this right here, needs to be more structured. And that's what I'm trying to do and bring you along with it, because I think in the end, that creates a much better product. And I can always change it, right? I'm the only one in charge of this thing, so I'm going to change it when I need to. But That's been the grind. So in 2026, it's about financial freedom. It's about growth on all of my channels and in all of my businesses. It's all about consistency, communication, and connection. So cash, consistency, communication, connection. So that's the grind. That's what I'm working on. It's taxing to do all this by yourself, but I love doing it. It completes a big part of me to be this productive. And I feel like I'm finally firing on all cylinders again. I have to say, before I move on to the next segment, the video that I put out last week, that was, the clips that I was putting out made it seem like I was in some dire strait. And believe me, after I put a couple of those clips out, I started getting all these messages saying, dude, are you okay? Just so you know, you matter and you're doing good things and you've affected more people than you could possibly know. And you need to hear that sometimes. It was wonderful that I realized I have so many incredible friends out there that are supportive of all of this. But I'm okay. The funny thing is, I think if I was really looking for help, there are parts of me that would never ask for help. And if you're seeing me out there saying things that are more vulnerable and that might appear like I'm not doing well, those are actually the times when I'm most introspective and I'm solving my own problems. I'm taking my self-awareness and I'm analyzing it and I'm thinking about it and I'm solving it. So the reason that I put it out there and the reason that I am so open and vulnerable about it, and I've been doing this for years, right? With my own mental health and my own self-analysis and my own therapy, is that I know a lot of you out there feel exactly the same way that I do on a week in and week out basis. How do I know that? Is that I talk to a lot of you and you tell me that you're feeling this way on week in and week out. So I wanted to be able to give you the feeling that you're not alone, because I'm here right alongside you, struggling with you, trying to make this thing happen. So that's all I wanted to say on the grind. Shall we move on? I think it's about time. So now we're going to be heading into the last segment of the show, which I call The Bench. So for the bench, what the bench is about, this segment is about building. It's what are we doing to put the rubber on the road and actually build this thing. So it's about the decisions and the compromises and the lessons learned. And when I was sitting down and drafting out this segment, and I might shift some of these things around, right? I might start with the bench and then end with the maintenance. Who knows? But right now, what I want to do is end the show thinking about how we're building forward. As creatives, we can get very complacent and we can stay in the same place over and over and over and never feel like we're really growing because we're not making the decisions and learning from the lessons that, give us a hard time. Because it's difficult. So what are we doing to build forward? How do we move past that? So for a topic in my segment here, I want to talk about building this podcast studio, because I'm not only building it here at home. This is my home. Not only building this here at home, but I've got another whole studio building 10 minutes away. That's the photography studio. And I've been converting that, or a section of that, into a podcast area. Now, it's easy to go in there. You saw me do some reels in the past couple of weeks about tearing it apart, painting the walls, moving some furniture around, and thinking about how I want to build it out. And that's the grunt work. That's the framing of the house that you have to do before you can go in and decorate and have people over for dinner. So I wanted to make sure that everything that I built here at home, I could then replicate at the studio easily. And working here at home honestly gives me a lot of freedom to have everything that I need, cables and cameras and lights and tools and monitors and TVs, so I can mix and match and put things together in such a way that I can then rebuild that once it's optimized at the studio. Now, one of the things that I've had to do is think about, all right, how am I going to use this? Because it's useless to build another whole studio if I have this and it's working for everything that I need. But in thinking about the studio, I don't shoot in there every single day. And what I'd like to have happen is people be able to utilize the studio for their own content production. I haven't announced anything on that yet because I'm still building it and still thinking through the model. But one thing that needs to happen is it needs to be built out. So why don't I just build it out? So I decided that I'd use the home studio for convenience, right? The weather goes bad. I can just stay here and do what I need to do. Solo work like this. And then use the main studio for things like guest work, doing a little bit more live photography education, being able to utilize the environment of the studio and give you much better content that I'm unable to produce here. So having two locations not only mixes it up for the eye, but it also gives me way more breadth in what I'm trying to create. Because I want to be able to do the stuff here where we have these close, vulnerable conversations, but I also want to be able to give you guys practical tips, good tools, good education that in this economy helps you in a better way than just attending courses or traveling for workshops. I love doing both of those things. I love going to workshops. I love learning from other people. But a lot of times it's just not practical in my schedule. So having a studio where I can do more lives and webinars and recorded segments and give you guys just a ton more content than I'm giving you now, then let's do it, right? So, all right, that's kind of the main decision is solo work, maybe some product review, podcasting here at home. The studio is going to be podcasting with guests live in studio, and then also a bunch of other content that I'm just writing in the backside. So when it comes to building that studio out, like I said, I wanted to optimize everything here. And I've been using for my main camera, going on years now, for podcasting is my Fuji X-T4. And it's got a variety of lenses on it given any week, but I try to stick with this like wider 27 millimeter lens, right? But as I got into doing work for Amazon and doing their influencer program, I wanted to be able to have multiple cameras to switch up the view and just make things more interesting. So, got a couple of things, and we'll try to walk through it one by one. So I got the Fuji X-T4 here, right? And think about this in terms of the main studio as well, how I'm going to have some things set up. So main camera here, we've got a secondary camera here, and that is the YoloCam S3. So it's a 4K webcam, right? You saw me talk about that recently. That's what this one is. Now I can go over here, and this is the Hollyland Lyra camera, another 4K webcam. That one is this right here. So that's the Hollyland Lyra. Let me move it down a little bit. And the cool thing about the Lyra, beautiful. This is a beautiful webcam, but it also comes with a little Bluetooth microphone. Now, I have no idea if that just connected here or if things went bad, but thing that allows me to do is take this camera on the road, use that Bluetooth microphone. If I wanted to, I could use my DJI mics, but why not use that? I've tested it. It sounds pretty good. I'll show you in a video how it works some other time. But I wanted a third angle here so that I could do a little bit more personal stuff. Maybe I'm doing some education, maybe I'm doing some editing, and all this back here looks like absolute dog shit. So I'm going to try to clean all of this up. And then I said, well, that's not enough. I need to have a fourth camera. So it's the overhead angle. Now this is if I want to do something like this, because what's being shown above is the OBSBot Meet SE. There's a couple of different webcams out there, and from OBSBot. OBSBot makes great cameras, by the way. I'm working my way up to their Tail 2, which is, like $1,000 webcam. It's got pan, tilt, zoom. It's remarkable. And so I figured I'd start small. And the people at Ecamm were very kind to send me this. Well, after I won it during one of their live streams, they sent me an OBSBot Meet SE. And I was like, how good is this going to be? It's just a 1080p webcam. How good can it possibly be? And this thing runs about $70. It's right here above. Looks like this, right? I can show you stuff. It looks really good. It's got pretty quick autofocus, good color. Now, I barely tweaked this. I installed this last night, so I barely tweaked it. But, if you wanted to look at my Stream Deck, I can be able to do that. But it's just another angle for me to be able to show you what it is that I'm doing. My goal by using an overhead camera is to go through more product-driven materials. Now, 4 cameras for a little home studio is probably way more than I need, but you can see the power in it. So if I'm doing a different type of opinion, maybe I need to do some sidebar, I can go over here. If I want to make it appear like I'm doing something different, I go over to this camera. And while I don't have tally lights on everything, it's only a 10 by 10 studio. I know exactly where I'm looking, and I'm controlling which camera I'm using, so it doesn't really matter. Now, how this translates to the studio is I'll probably have 2 mirrorless cameras, both the X-T4 and my Fuji H2S, set up as the primary cameras on the podcast set. I'll then have the webcams be alternate angles to show you the breadth of the studio, maybe wider shots, maybe close-up shots. Haven't decided, but being able to run 4 cameras at once, all controlled through a Stream Deck, all running into Ecamm seamlessly, is a no-brainer for me to want to do at the studio. And it's way cheaper to get $200 4K incredible webcams than it is to outfit the entire studio with Sony ZV-E10s or, Canon cinema cameras or even Fuji stuff. So this has worked out really, really well for me because as I think about what I'm doing at the studio, it's at this old mechanics garage. So I've got overhead racks and I've got a bunch of ways that I can show the studio, and it really will not be that difficult. So that's the camera angle of why I want to do that at the studio. Now, my framing here, the aesthetic that I've created here, I can't replicate this at the studio because I don't have 2 of everything in the background. But I've got a ton of junk at the studio that I'm going to throw up and make it look like 2 different sets. Because the 2 sets that I'll have, one will be the guest setup, there'll be another one for my solo work, and then I'll probably have a roving setup as well that I'll just connect to a C-stand, put a webcam and a light and a microphone on it, and be able to wheel that around the studio and do different types of educational content. Now, when it comes to the software and replicating it from here to the studio, right here, I'm running on a Mac M2 Mac Mini, and Great machine, works great, but I've got an M3 MacBook Pro. That will be the machine for the studio. So I've got that figured out. All of my graphics, all of my overlays, all of that is stored in Ecamm. And all I have to do is use the same profile that I use here over at the studio. Done and done, all replicated. Now, some of the things that no one really thinks about are how many cables you're going to need, right? And one of the things that Doc has hooked me up with in terms of thinking about is the quality of cables that you're getting these days and the throughput. And I had a little tech discussion with him last week about throughput on some of the USB-C cables. I run a lot of Thunderbolt and high-speed USB-C, and things were starting to, freak out on me. And I realized that I was just using cheap cables. They're just cheap cables. So getting things that are going to allow you more throughput, 40 gigs per second, 240 watts for fast charging, all of that, getting good cables is going to change your life. Now, when you have all those cables and you have all these cameras, what are you going to connect it to? So I've got things like powered hubs, right? Powered hubs take the load off of your computer to process all of this stuff, because this is doing some of the heavy lifting with the data throughput, and it goes into the bus of your computer, and things just operate more smoothly. So I've got a CalDigit hub here. I've got a Satechi hub here. They're all powered. Make sure you get powered. Great cables, great capture cards, whether it's Cam Links or it's like the Orico 4K capture cards, which are just basically dummies. These are doing the processing for the video versus your computer. So that's what capture cards, like, think of this as like a big gray Cam Link, right? All of this I've been purchasing so that I can replicate exactly what I'm doing here over there. Now, what am I doing differently? Did I overbuild here? Am I overbuilding at the studio? No, I didn't overbuild here. I think this is set up exactly like I wanted. I'm really not changing anything. I've got a Shure MV7X microphone here, and I have got an MV7 Plus on the way. Thank you, Ecamm. I just won one of those from Ecamm as well. So I'll have very similar microphone at the studio. That's great. So I'm trying not to cheap out on gear, and I'm trying to do it in a way that the quality and the cost are comparable. I know what I spent to set up this studio. Most of this is already replicated over there. So I've got the overhead lights. These cameras are all very, very portable. I need some new cables. I've got my tripods over there. I've got my constant lights, my big Nanlite 500s. Those will light everything just fine. I need some decoration. I'm not so much of an interior designer, but that will look fine as well. And I don't think I cheaped out on anything, because that's what I tend to do. I'm like, USB-C cable's a USB-C cable. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So spending a little bit of money, I'm investing in myself, but this is exactly where I'm going. It's what you got to do for the business. I've got every piece of photo equipment that I'll probably ever need. The video stuff, I was behind the times. And now that I've revamped everything and come up to current, I'm feeling really, really good and really motivated. I can't wait to have people in the studio and do live interviews. The energy is always just different. And if I can eliminate all of the overhead of technical issues, oh God, I only have one camera. How am I going to get all these? Now I can bring in as many cameras and as many microphones as I want. And I've got mixing boards and I've got other roadcasters and things like that. So I'm feeling like this entire studio will be easy to replicate over at the main building. So you're going to have to tell me, though, how this all looks when I get into that space, how it sounds. Does it look different? Does it sound different? Do you even care? Right? Because if no one cares, I'll just move back here and I'll just do my stuff from here. All right. Last bit here on the decisions and, the setup and all of that as part of the bench, right? This is the kind of like the tech part of this. Despite all the gear talk, despite all the technical issues, what's the thing that makes both studios work well? I think as I ask myself that question and why I need it, why I'm doing it, what's the purpose of all of this, is I want to be able to focus on the conversations that I'm having with my guests. I want to be able to focus on what it is that I'm saying to you, and I don't want to be preoccupied with all of the equipment issues. Now, do you need all of this? Absolutely 1000% no. You can take your phone and a wireless mic like the Lyra and produce incredible content. It's never, ever, ever about the tech. It's never about the equipment. It's about what you're able to do with it, what you're able to squeeze out of it. And I'm the type of person that until I've really exhausted the capabilities, I don't want to upgrade. I've been doing generator on one camera and one mic for years. And I finally am at a point now where I want to expand the production, and it's becoming really easy. I think one of the things that I'll have to replicate, which I didn't talk about, is the Elgato Stream Deck. Now, I've got a Stream Deck XL. It is a good size, and this allows me to do pretty much everything from one control panel in all of this. If I wanted to, like I said before, I can just kind of change my background. So I'm going to keep working with the Stream Deck so that as I build out these segments, as I get better at the production, if I do have a producer at the studio or if it's just me, I want it to be simple and easy. And everything that I do here in the show, everything that I do in Ecamm is laid out on the Stream Deck so that it's really easy to follow, really easy to produce. So, like I said, the thing that matters most is my connection to my guest, my connection to you, and the things that bring us both together, which is the love of creative work and learning and building and growing together. I haven't gotten here by myself. Sometimes it feels that way, but I haven't gotten here by myself. I have been lifted up and helped by countless people. I'm not even going to try to name them because I'll eventually forget somebody. And there's too many incredible people in my life that have helped support me get to this point. And I'm not able to name them all in one go, right? We just don't have enough time. It's a whole nother podcast. So the fact that I'm moving forward with all the help from all these people, bringing something to you, making it better every week. If I can be incrementally better every week, it will make all of this pay off in the long run. So, oh, look at that. We got Paul coming in. Hey, Paul, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. And, Paul's one of these guys that is of that group, just remarkably supportive, and met him at Creator Camp, and we're trying to build pretty much alongside each other. And I love that inspiration and that motivation of not only learning from someone else, getting inspired by them as well to do this better, right? We're just trying to build better lives for ourselves. So, Paul, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. At some point, you'll start to see this become seamless. Right now, I talk a lot about the process, but I want to bring you inside so that it lays a good foundation for everything that you see as I bring on guests, as I produce more shows. So this is what 2026 is going to look like, how it's going to feel, right? Obviously, there'll be a guest. It won't just be me rambling all the time. But I want it to be easy. I want it to be efficient. And I want it to stay connected to you. So if you've been able to bear with all of my repetition tonight, and the breathing of the camera, which I've still yet to solve. That's an autofocus issue. If you've been able to listen to all of this rambling and stay here, I appreciate you. No matter what stage you're at, no matter where you are in this journey of creativity, whether you're just starting to write or sculpt or paint or take photos or do video or create automations for people, no matter where you are in this creative journey, know you are not alone. We're all out here, and very few of us know what we're doing. But the bravery and the courage comes from actually doing it. So just get out there and do it. I believe in you. All right. You can hear it in my voice. I'm losing my voice. So until next week, this will be the wrap up of Generator Live. On Friday morning, 9 a.m., right back here, we're going to have more of a working session. And I'll show you what I'm doing in Claude, what I'm building with AI, some of the automations that I'm doing, some of the products that I've produced. Maybe we'll talk about all of that on Friday. And I've got some other bigger announcements coming up, but I'm going to save those for a little bit, probably until the new year. But thank you for joining me. Again, I'm Matt. Thanks as always. I'll catch you next week.